Okay, so good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for being here. My name is Danielah Martinez, and I am presenting on behalf of Associate Professor Katherine Moline and Professor Demirbilek, who are online and will be available for questions afterwards. So Design with Ageing Communities has a long history, from the Presence Project in 2001, documented by William Gaber, to speculative co-design research in design and health, such as the Patient Empowerment Kit by Eva Nutz and her collaborators. Healthy ageing has preoccupied socially motivated designers for over 20 years. Drawing on this history, our paper presents a snapshot of our different approaches to co-design on issues connected to design and health. We are each informed by different traditions in socially engaged design, but with the shared purpose to advance research on design and health through co-design. In this presentation, we articulate the different traditions we draw from and identify where our approaches intersect. Oya's industry collaborations with and for older consumers, Katherine's speculative co-design workshops on the liminal thresholds of ageing, and my approach to co-creating with elders. The practice of co-design has a long and rich history that has taken different paths in the United States and in Europe. The European approach, beginning in the coal mines of the UK in the 1950s and continuing in workplace-based initiatives in Scandinavia through the 1960s and 70s, followed in the tradition of participant-generated research and action mobilisation established by participatory action research. The first major conference on the topic, User Participation in Design, was held in the by the Design Research Society in London in 1971 in response to, quote, the mounting pressure for wider sections of society to participate in the processes of planning and design, unquote. The use of probes and co-design workshop kits, as developed over the last 20 years by William Gaber and others, are deployed in our research in various ways to provoke inspiring responses from individuals for the purpose of learning from the user in early stages of research. As you will hear, our approaches overlap where users are treated as experts in their own life circumstances and where the design process is seen as a collaboration between different expert groups, including users and designers. Demographic studies by the Australian Bureau of Statistics show that more than 1 in 5 Australians will be aged over 65 by the year 2066. Compare that to the current figure of about 1 in 10, and you can see that our population is aging rapidly in line with global demographic trends. Oya's focus is on participatory and co-design methods for mainstreaming inclusive and accessible product designs for older populations. Participatory design and co-design are about designing together rather than designing for the end user. The term co-design has been used a lot recently, and like the word design, it means different things to different people. It is used as an umbrella term for participatory design, co-creation, co-production, user-centered design, open innovation, and even consultation. It has its roots in social science research, applied research through design, project-grounded research, generative research, and participatory action research. The practice of co-design can also be layered into 3 rough categories. First, with co-design as a mindset for front-end design and design research. Then to co-design as a set of methods or an approach, which is where the project described by Oya sits. And to co-design as a collection of tools and techniques, which is the realm of marketing. On screen, you will see sequential images from the 9 different sessions that were run for the Livable Bathrooms for Older People project by Oya and her colleagues. Each session focused on 1 or 2 design research methods. The roles of the older co-designers can be explained in 3 different categories. They helped inform the larger project with their stories. They participated in creative activities and workshops and other aspects of design. And most importantly, they guided and directed some of the work. For example, they helped to shape the survey questions from the more extensive study and the testing protocol for the design lab that Oya's team was setting up at the time. They did this in between co-design sessions. Looking at how people can be involved in design research is part of what Oya teaches at the University of New South Wales. For this, she uses Liz Sanders' model, where people's contributions are divided into 3 layers: what they say, what they do, and what they know or dream. The part where it seems easiest to get information is what people say, done with interviews and examining explicit knowledge. However, people will often reveal more in what they do. This mid-level, what people do, requires observation-related methods. Finally, the diagram's narrow inverted pyramid is called know or make and requires generative and creative methods to draw tacit knowledge about inherent latent needs. In other words, things that people do not know that they know, have, or need. This slide shows the different design research methods used in the Livable Bathroom for Older People project across the 3 years that the project ran. First, Oya's team gathered explicit knowledge through journaling, storytelling, role play, and expert opinions. Next, observable information was gathered via a walkthrough of a modern bathroom exhibition, personal inventory about the bathrooms of each older participant, storyboarding, and user trials related to the Livability Lab setting. Finally, latent knowledge was sought via brainstorming, scenarios, and make tools, such as a set of little dolls with miniature bathroom furniture. Katherine's preferred site for workshops on women's healthy ageing at work are, unsurprisingly, workplaces, such as the factory in Victoria, where she conducted a workshop in 2021, now shown on screen. Her approach to co-design draws from ludic design that has been described by Bill Gaither as activities motivated by curiosity, exploration, and reflection rather than externally defined tasks, and critical design, described by Daniel Foldman as exploratory research where design engages in problem setting, which, as he describes it, often seeks to test ideas and to ask what if, and reveal alternatives to the expected and traditional. She also draws on the design activism of Thomas Markison and the speculative co-design approach by Eva Nutz, Markison, and Maria Vanessa Alster-Vierschen, which they describe as facilitating people to take part in research expressing dilemmas that traditional methods within ethnography have difficulties capturing. Within Oya's framework, Katherine's research sits at the pre-design stage. The workshops are initiated with a discussion of selected media reports on perimenopause, after which participants are invited to engage in 2 collective activities, examples of which are seen on screen. The first involves mixing paints to produce and name colours that reflect the participants' experiences of perimenopause at work, during which she invites stories about the colours and the meanings implied in their names. The second activity invites participants to modify garments with scissors, pins, thread, and decorations. Some produce costumes that border on the burlesque in parodying stereotypes of older women in the workplace, while others modify garments for greater comfort at work. In the later workshops, participants were invited to keep the costumes, and in the workshop in Victoria, participants left the workshop wearing their garments, presumably prompting further discussion in the workplace. On screen, you can see the rainbow of colours that women created and the diverse phrases with which they named them. As participants shared stories about their experiences of perimenopause in their workplace, some made jokes or expressed empathy, while others commiserated about challenges they faced during the transition, suggesting that the workshop created a social rather than work-like environment. The final workshop in 2021 was limited to online discussion with probing kits, on screen now, that were mailed to participants due to a sudden COVID lockdown. The important theme that emerged from triangulating the data included the women's sense of liminality, being between two states. The probe returns, as with the face-to-face workshops, included names for colours that indicated a heightened awareness of liminality during perimenopause. The feeling of being betwixt and between was captured in names such as worst time / best time and pause. Despite limited positive accounts in public discourse, where perimenopause is subsumed in medical debates about the perils of treatments, participants claim that it's not all bad. There is an upside. Specifically, quote, "It has highs as well as lows. There's a creative side to it or decisiveness about wanting to make changes," unquote. As the participants' sense of liminality in this observation and the garments on screen affirm, the sense of liberation some women experience during perimenopause balances the challenges of negotiating the threshold of aging, the surprises and the difficulties. My research challenges design practitioners whose uncritical adoption of productivity perspectives of aging emerges in the artifacts that they design. The project investigates narratives of active aging through the use of cultural probes and co-design practices that are informed by caring frameworks. Like Katherine, my co-design approach sits at the pre-design stage. Despite questions in critical gerontology about the implications of modelling all older people on the active ageing model, contemporary industrial designers work with the active ageing principles that are promoted by the World Health Organization's 2007 Age-Friendly Cities Guide. The extent to which the activity perspective of older age influences industrial design can be demonstrated using the example of the Scooter for Life, designed by industrial design studio Priestley & Good. The scooter, which was conceived in a direct critique of the deficit-dependent perspective of ageing, was promoted by the studio as a new scooter concept reflecting health through mobility. It offers an aspirational mobility solution for a particular segment of the ageing population who fit an idealised version of an active older age, but is based in physical ability and social productivity. This is part of the productivity paradigm, which I define as the personal and societal values held predominantly in Western societies that emphasise the active pursuit of productivity, usefulness, and independence as the ideal way to grow old. When designers address design problems through the lens of productivity, they work towards outcomes that support these narratives and therefore narrow the range of possible everyday experiences. To address the idealised conception of active ageing in industrial design, my research explores alternatives to the active ageing model by introducing care as a critical approach in participatory design research. Similarly to Sanders' account of co-design, the recent discourse on care and design advocates for the decentralisation of the designer and acknowledges the interconnectedness between design researchers, the materials and users of design. I employ a participatory critical design approach to reposition designers, design users, and design objects in interdependent relationships with one another through care and design. The methods will be guided and evaluated through Joan Tronto's ethical elements of care: attentiveness, responsibility, competence, and responsiveness. I plan to distribute cultural probes to research participants in the manner of Gaber, prompting them to provide creative responses that uncover their experiences of ageing and perspectives of active ageing. This activity is the practice of attentiveness from Tronto's care frameworks. Following this, participatory critical design workshops developed in the vein of Nuts and Collaborators will enable the co-creation of critical designs that represent a diversified perspective of older age. As an expression of designing with, these co-design workshops will acknowledge and support the competencies of facilitators and participants. The outcomes of the workshops will be exhibited in a publicly accessible space decided upon with participants. In tandem to the exhibition, I plan to hold post-research reflection workshops to allow for participants to respond to their experience of the research and operationalisation of responsiveness as an ethical dimension of care. In conclusion, We see overlaps between co-design, community cultural development, participatory art, and public pedagogy. When public pedagogy is defined as learning in extra-institutional spaces and discourses, it crosses over with social activism and co-design with marginalised groups, such as older populations. Our interpretation of the possibilities of public pedagogy described by Elizabeth Ellsworth's account as, quote, a continuous crossroads of sensation and perception as a place of learning, it has the potential to become a pedagogy not for the public, but rather a pedagogy of and by the public, unquote, which mirrors the description of Gaver's work as designing with rather than for specific groups of people, a mantra that continues to motivate the co-design ethos of Sanders and much socially engaged design today. Thank you.